What class in fantasy exists because it's a lot easier to use your anger than it is to use your words? The answer is Barbarians. Barbarians are often known for their ability to go into a blind rage at a moment's notice, and to use that fury to take on hordes of enemies. Many people wonder how they can get angry so easily, but the secret is that they are actually just always angry. Their rage is always just under the surface, and all they need is a reason to finally allow themselves to go feral. You see, barbarians actually have figured out that civilized society will shun their violent outbursts whenever they are within the city gates. But for some reason, those same townsfolk will pay handsomely if they have a crash out in some far-off cave filled with monsters. All they have to do is bring back the skull of whatever poor beast was on the receiving end of that outburst, and the barbarian will get enough gold to cover grog and gruel for the next month. Barbarians pride themselves on hitting things first and asking questions never. The reason for this is simple. When you've put all your time and effort into developing your body, odds are you're going to be lacking a bit in the brains department. That only becomes a shortcoming though if you let your opponent have time to think. You see, even the most powerful wizards need time and concentration to cast their spells, and a barbarian doesn't need to be smart enough to outwit them. Instead, they just need to be smart enough to realize that it is hard to concentrate when you're getting your skull bashed in. It is really a case of the best defense is a good offense. As the saying probably goes, me hit harder, so me no have to think smarter. Barbarians seem to believe that being shirtless is how you fully harness the power of your muscles. According to them, a little bit of protective gear can completely cut off all mobility that the barbarian has in the battlefield. Plus, if their opponents can't see their physique because it's hidden under some bulky clothing, their opponent might come to the absolutely inaccurate conclusion that they are bigger than the barbarian, and they can't have that. Lucky for them, their inability to wear a shirt actually does provide a very tangible bonus to their defense. Maybe it's the beads of sweat coming off their six-pack that make their entire body so slippery that it's impossible to land a solid blow, or maybe it's an optical illusion where their muscles glimmer in the torchlight to the point where they appear blurry as they charge at you. Either way, there's some supernatural nonsense going on when it comes to barbarians and armor. So for now, the shirt stays off during combat. Barbarians are so proud of intelligence being a dump stat that it is now a defining personality trait. Most heroes are ashamed when they can't do basic things like read or write, but for barbarians, it is a badge of honor. You may think that low intelligence is actually not that big of a deal, because the rest of the party can do the thinking for them. While that would be a fair assumption if everyone is civil, you have to remember that you picked up someone who is known for being very emotionally unstable. When you combine those two things, you're going to get someone who doesn't exactly take constructive criticism well. The best way to get a barbarian on board with anything that requires a little bit of nuance is by simply not telling them the entire plan. Tell them the party needs to break into the king's castle, and that the barbarian will have the vital task of ripping the front door off its hinges. The barbarian will do it without hesitation. Then the rest of the party can do the real plan. Maybe something like sneaking in through a side entrance, while the entirety of the town guard comes chasing after the barbarian. Barbarians only really have two methods of problem solving. One is to hit something hard enough that it stops moving, and the other is to hit something hard enough that it starts moving. When it comes to things you encounter within a dungeon, that actually does clear up most of the obstacles. For that reason alone, you might consider the barbarian to be the best at dungeon delving. But to get the most out of your angry ally, there is actually a secret third thing that a barbarian can do for the party, which you should only really use in a bind. The method is simple but effective. When facing certain death, you allow the deadly obstacle to hit the barbarian non-stop until the barbarian isn't moving. The trick is to hype up the barbarian and then retreat as they unknowingly buy everyone else time to escape. Barbarians seem to always be either raised by wolves in the mountains, or raised in some kind of other uninhabitable and sad home life situation. Usually, this backstory helps explain why they have such poor social skills and such high pain tolerances. But I actually think the alternative upbringing would be so much scarier. Imagine someone who grew up in a completely sheltered life, that never broke a bone or went hungry as a kid, that just decided to wake up one day, get jacked, and start inflicting pain on the world. A person who has never experienced a moment of hardship in their youth and has grown bored of their coddled experience, choosing to seek out their own hardship for the sole purpose of bringing more pain into the world. That would be a true barbarian. Someone who is so angry at the world that they have chosen to take it out on the random strangers they met on the road. Barbarians are actually surprisingly loyal once you finally figure out how to house train them. It won't make them any less reckless or any more reliable, but at least they'll risk everything to double back and save you once you guys finally become friends. They are feral animals at heart, so you'll never get them to stick to a plan. But you might be able to get them to stick by your side when things get chaotic. You can never truly tame them, but you may be able to nudge them in the right direction and tell them to start swinging. Remember though, barbarians aren't exactly known for their tactical precision, so it might be best to take a few steps back so you don't become another target for them to cleave through. Most adventuring parties don't exactly wear a coordinated uniform, so you can't really blame the big guy for occasional friendly fire. So yeah, barbarians. They're the most likely to be ride or die for the party, mainly because it has never occurred to them that they don't always have to put their life in danger. Their social skills are usually lacking, so if you're lucky, they will let someone else in the party do the talking for them, but only until they get bored. After that, the barbarian will randomly start swinging, and you just have to hope that this time they start a fight the party can actually win. Barbarians can both be the biggest asset and liability that the party has at any time. It's a lot of fun when things are going the party's way, but you will be cursing the barbarian once that luck runs out and you've found yourself in jail. Don't worry though, the barbarian got you into this mess, and they'll likely be the only one that can get you out of it, or they will at least die trying. And honestly, when you're in the deadly business of adventuring, that is the most that you can ask of your party. It's hard not to love those big dumb berserkers, because whenever they show up to the table, even when they screw things up, they will absolutely be the first to jump into the fray. That is why barbarians are fantasy's most gullible meat shields. If you liked the video, make sure to check out my other releases on the channel and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can get 10% off when you use code LootGoblin at gamersubs.gg. I recommend getting a flavor called Sweet Six Pack, perfect for any barbarian who wants to stay caffeinated and hydrated when they are delving dungeons and slaying monsters. Or if you just like cherry and pineapple. If you want free samples before you buy, or caffeine-free versions of any of the flavors, my link works for that too. Farewell for now.